Hello, Americans. Hello, people of Weathersfield, people of Connecticut, intercities, town. The difference, the breaching method set up the suburbs, tactically denatured and sustained against the colonists simply distinctly, or forced roles with and as simply distinctly tortured, enslaved, extorted. No matter how powerful someone could get, no matter how wealthy, you could only be of low locations, areas, and states, individually grouped and together, criminally foreign influence everywhere the species body stood slash stands. It's discernible in treatments of Jim Crow laws, the significance and opinions regarding reality. For example, Jim Crow laws, science hard with that, proper, easy with that. Does not leave out what slavery was about, what Jim Crow was about, as we said in the last video, live stream video. There's a live stream video section is different than the video section under the sections on YouTube channels where there were little knobs. Anyway, today, boxing song by Anthony Wall. It'll be in digital format in the stores, but also online. You can see it on whoever the streaming locations. I know Spotify has it. Spotify is this is an unpaid advertisement for Spotify. Besides the fact, I don't know, it's my own song, so I'm saying that. So it's like, yeah, I should do some unpaid advertisement for things like Tuesdays. Tell your seed, tell your seed's energy. TUE. Tell your energy. Uh, Tell your energy C. Diffusing. Tell your energy C diffusion. Alpha Y. Because alpha and omega have a differential relationship to the hyper-identity, hyper-simultaneous, the identity of the hyper-simultaneous. And it has three natures of relationship to itself. To discern that, first we have to discern part of itself and its conjunction to itself with the extent of the complete identity of of space slash existence. But even though we have only the middle, the smallest part of its complete identity, its complete identity is a complete identity of relationship to itself, is inseparable not only from all parts of itself, but from the smallest part to other identities of itself, with that and as that, while as that and while not. And those two values to each other. But this is additional ways when these are own. And this is a complete, the only, this is a complete hyperpossession over our syntax nature as its own. But see, humanity has long, unlike the rest of the species bodies, unlike the rest of life, humanity has in these systems that are crippling foreign influence, natures of positive treatments and negative treatments, and identity treatments and value treatments simultaneously, crippling foreign influence and tactically delusions wrought, and that too used remotely. and that's going to cause negative value nature progression to X nature. The breaching method knew it could blame on other things and get everyone else to blame on other things other than themselves. Have nature demonstrate that too. And have all that effectively science right back to all location slash S uses. Everyone missed because everyone was too busy reacting or non-reacting, whatever, all exceptions to the crazy breaching method against Native Americans and colonists simultaneously through themselves and each self against each self as the names of the species self. The species body is individuals grouped together. Group difference. This is what difference is one of the things. What's the difference? Is there a question asked by having black people's whites of eyes and different color eyes? Having black people's and whites of eyes non-distinctly. Distinctly some demonstration of the same thing. Oh, someone says slavery is unnatural. Oh, if it's not natural, how come it wouldn't be? How come no one ever answered that question? It's only natural as criminal insidiousness. Because they counted criminal enterprise as wrong. This breaching method, no. The suburbs are causing negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. That nature would demonstrate. Again, it could have blamed on other things other than themselves, while it had those other additional causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures as real ones that people knew and were blaming things on properly, but doing it wrong as rules with it, not just against themselves. They're blaming on other things on others and or on selves. People say, what is slavery about? Even right through our schools, people blame it on our founders. Start debates, pretend, waste time. Will cause slavery, predicate delivery system method, torture, extortion method that was in torture, and identity theft, slander, fraud method against everyone that was in place. Everyone sickly distinctly to keep out sickly non distinctly, and uses of that undiscerned. Uses of that discerned, juxtaposed with that. So people discern, but only to extents, and only be, that they can that they can discern preemptively, actively for a group, a bunch of reasons, and with sense of what's to come. And because they want to hold on to things, everyone knows everything is fake. Yeah, what since founding, when did the branches of government have time to deal with finite truths? And what came first? It was properly. They value the excuses facilitated with the identity of negative value nature progression was maintained self-value because that's how criminal insidious nature is a means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts in nature, positive ones that are still negative as criminal insidiousness, criminally foreign, tactically delusion wrong. And that's not to say because none of our countries involved. We are now bound, individuals grouped and together, tacticalitarian than how we're supposed to be, even the same people. There are influences manifest with the human syntax nature, variables and constant treatments, and special and e-special difference in every word and phrase. See, we have been taken from the course that was about this, led by what was revealed before the sciences became criminally foreign influence from off their locations. The locations everywhere the human species body stands. This knew that they would have to use names. They would have to unite behind names. Now they have to counter as fact-checking nature, not knowing how to do it properly, not fathoming the breaching method will skip all hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise. There were regular criminal enterprise that realized it was going to get caught before it got caught. So we realized if we got people to blame other things, others, and ourselves, and then do even more insidious things to keep that hidden, blamed on other things or results, and lock everyone as as with the foundation and the same identity of relation to itself that we have now, that we had before the founders of modern religions. In our faces, what they say, the religious books right up front, they say, only you have to understand right up to here in the Old Testament about where the scientists share an identity. Instead, everyone, all kinds of things other, and uses of passions and emotions, descriptions of that with others. No. Emotions have a function where it has, for example, so an individual could sense the smallest finite detail left out, even if it's everyone at once, and or they could sense simultaneously things left out. The consciousness of the animals could sense things not right. You know the words. Nature shows us things small, like a worm, how the worms walk out of the ground sometimes. I'm using the word walk for whatever word. I'm gonna use the word slither. I don't know if that's the worms. And then they walk into the bodies of water, even when it's not raining, but when it's raining especially too. They walk in the bodies of water. So now the fish, they don't have the bugs when it's jumping out of the water top to jump up beneath. Now they have worms and it's raining. Out of nowhere, those are constant worms. When the ground's not has not been fed, the earth, it is a different consistency every year. It is more and more like sand. There are proofs that the Sahara Desert was made by tactically, they took out the mountain and all the time consciously making more and more consciously people blame other things as other themselves and what they missed besides that because they knew some people will get that and be watching everyone missed the significance of what happens when you defend or justify the defenses even in defense of yourself even when from needs to be even when you're not yourself. I mean it's not your fault. When defense systems other individually grouped it together, treatments of positive or negative, Boolean logic, what they call it now. There are proofs that algebra and descriptions of it have been tactically criminally foreign influence slash hyper tactically criminally foreign influence since some ancient times. And there's remote uses of opinions and descriptions of their opinions and or convictions. And theories relevant to this, because in defenses of that and interpretations of that, scriptures too. Ooh. So in other words, switching names is one of the things that Connecticut and communicate they do. While their roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases and with people in the hallways of the courts, increasingly tied to people I interact classes with who are in backgrounds involved with predicate acts with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people on Fox Connecticut News and the religious and other building spots next to them. Through time, involved also with other news the places next to WFSB and WTNH, recorded, professed, demonstrated, confirmed officer influence, pretend such as personal. Also, where and how they have roles with each, every country's certain type of victim of every science, certain type of hyper victim, predator, for a method. And it's simple, but you have to follow mandated law and allow outside of courts properly. See, nobody follows the rules outside of courts properly because of how they had kids since they were kids, building on wire crimes and criminally foreign influence youth natures of them, and roles with stacking predicate acts with facts into databases tricks so they can prevent people from speaking about the past honestly. And from telling about the truth, in other words, I loved all my teachers in grammar school. You know, there's not one exception. They try to make a fake exception with a reading class. We'll leave that out because that's involved, one of the ones involved with proven child abusers associated with my street here too. And this method, but the rest of it is actually recorded, where they coordinate on campus, off campus, and at other locations in the people's homes, and next to every place, where and how everyone's speaking through everyone else is and has been employed by a breaching method since before our founders were born. This method using corners of streets in the design of the suburbs tactically denatured and rely upon food from other locations, apart with those tortures, and involved with blaming other things other than themselves for the real answers that are actually with integrity, as integrity's voice. See, integrity to pretend it spoke before it spoke is what our founders want. Quick, broke, boxings. I teach us things. So George Washington had to leave slavery entrenched in Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. He had to quickly counter-extort the people involved with the slavery law in Wethersfield, Connecticut, and people who were involved with slavery as slaves law, individually grouped and together. And see, the black and white stuff was blaming, it was natures and roles and needs to blame other things other than ourselves. Even when that's inseparable from every subject. You don't have to be black. The second someone lies about emotions, where and how the significance and the criticality of our passions and emotions behind how the course of black pupils, whites of eyes, and exceptions, the exception ages where we have different color eyes too at the same time. As answers, other in its place is evidence. It's hyper evidential. So many people don't watch the news because the nature of it. Our founders left us to demonstrate that there was entrenchment, so they had to. They could only quickly counter extort. But the nature of the laws with that was so everyone could measure it and maintain each other, used remotely from abroad through each country's own people by taking and having taken complete possession over the human fact-checking natures, sense and sensibilities, use Jane Austen's phrase. You take over, we are quality as fact-checking nature. Taking over actually, the way to say it, perfectly. The only way proper to say it perfectly is its way. There is the value of truth before the smallest finite detail now. Before the smallest finite detail of this modern republic, that is America, that is each modern republic's. Modeled as a republic. Regardless of the democracies are functioning, campuses are functioning, tactical than they have been entertained. This came from off campuses. It increasingly comes from off campuses. But it increasingly was. It rolls with it as insidious natures of positive negative treatments, identity treatments, therefore names treatments, and other answers in place of what needs to be communicated, where things that are serious that our founders wanted and needed communicated as Native Americans too. president slash chief, chief slash president, and with relativity right here, the identity of relativity. So they're male, female, species, body, not just as humanities, as other species bodies, distinctly, not distinctly, and simultaneously. There is also a hyper simultaneous. So to name as a scientific value that which the ancients would have called the hypersimultaneous if they didn't agree. And groups, they agreed to call the hypersimultaneous Allah or not. And there was no need to threaten people to kill them if they didn't decide to call it Allah or not. But then if they lied about it, they kill it. All you have to do though to be a Muslim is to agree to call it that or not. You're also supposed to not pray in any mosque for any reason that you discern that you shouldn't pray in a mosque. And you're also supposed to care about the people who don't agree about the name Allah. And that's also, it says in the Quran, that's the only important thing. That's all you have to do to be a Muslim, is to agree about it, to call it that as a sequence. This is not science in charge. This is not the sequence true for the Old Testament too. It says right in front, all you have to know is under all you have to know is right to here. Doesn't say all these crazy things. I don't have to even know the rest of it. It says all you have to know is right to here. The sciences share an identity. The people of the sciences will come together. Sciences are a bridge. The Constitution was supposed to be gotten on a bridge. That means that we were not supposed to address the language or the significance of the amendments apart from that which is also hyper-additional, an exception, there is special difference. Where, in other words, there's tricks with facts. Because at each age of fact, human nature, already the assignment of 15 identities of the ground manifests a phenomenon where we are 5 identities of simultaneous nature bound, such as cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall, and 2 other identities of reception and diffusion from and with. And semi-as gases and water and its elements, vaccines. Cell wall slash S, the body of value, the body of life, not alone. The body of the invisible but still discernible. That is all parts of English grammar of other languages grouped in together. They are different for the same reason. Nature wants us to see black pupils, whites of eyes. Exception nature. Wants us to see difference as itself. It is making more discern science, actually honest, hyper honest science. Hyper honest uses nature of truths that are true ways, not denying the slightest exception, not valuing the slightest exception, deny the smallest finite detail that you can discern. That's not the identity that revealed our species, body, evolution's fruits, gifts, the potentials For better than free instantly, paradise everywhere where we stay. Suburbs. So where we start, before our founders even born, suburbs design. Colonists all sickly distinctly, tactically, tortured, extorted, enslaved, even no matter how powerful or wealthy they could get, individually grouped it together. The countries had themselves this way, here, from there from here. And the narratives, even when you were in truth, there was in truth for lies, blaming other things other than themselves. So one of the reasons was as one of the answers to why and how for so long people got away with pretending that fake science, fake sciences were other than they are, or that so we have criminal insidiousness natures and positive treatments are all that have been known. So reason has means by how difference is greater than what measures alone. See the hyperconjunction. There's a hyperconjunction to itself, where it simultaneously value more to one part of itself, one way. Each of its five identities of sequence less simultaneous nature. Excuse me. That comes with each thing in Trinity too. Two distinct identities of its complete sequence slash simultaneous nature. Sequence nature is a sequence slash simultaneous nature. Know how an individual is a sequence nature, while the species body is a simultaneous nature. And know how the individual has a simultaneous nature, simultaneously the species body is a sequence nature. And where this is relative as valuable, we speak. Or whisper creek to prepare to speak for a law. I'm not a lawyer, not police quorum, I'm a journalist. The journalist recorded, there are three natures of communication. For this example, there are nonverbal communications, there are verbal communications, and there are hyper communications. And then further, we are this identity as ground and not as ground. Everything is distinctly, not distinctly, and hyper simultaneously itself. Its identity of relationship to itself. And the only increasing value of that. Also inseparable three times. In other words, inseparable from each part of itself. And each grouped part of itself. Manifest where how that one distinct identity of volume slash S is making more of itself. As the portion we are active, which connected to the inside of us, but it's not inside of us. And as the portion that is has already been, also still connected. So through three. But with this, the value of sequence truth, for example, before the smallest finite detail of the Republic, a torture, slavery, extortion method, entrenched here, there, everywhere. You know, we're in the physics of it, in the metaphysics of it, in the identity slash identities of it. All the complete possession slash hyper possession of that method from some ancient times that forced church persuaded each semi-ancient country, each modern country, only known, reliant upon defenses, fact, human nature oriented wise, therefore identity wise of themselves, uses of names simultaneously, of identities, core sciences, including the names of sciences, tactile terrier, from how we're individual grouped in together the way it communicates with us. It hyper communicates with us at the same time. Slash hyper communicates with us. If I say it communicates with us and hyper and communicates with us, that leaves out the way. It leaves out that's distinct from saying it communicates with us slash hyper communicates with us. And this is the extent of the hyper invisible but still discernible we can discern, except for one way, which also reveals how the ancients came to the word prayer, but distinctly, words tactically have been redefined, obfuscated, before they have been, they were rediscovered, criminally re-perfected. I mean, the whole narrative by that was set up too, through time, through lifetimes. And everyone made to blame things with law, leaving out the quality of fact you need to do that right. And to understand really the value of and really what all that was there that unfolded first. It's overheard. So I only know a whole bunch of people that I didn't know at all. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They sought me out here from other parts of town. And I never saw them with Tim O'Brien, for example, and Andrew O'Brien, and O'Brien family involved with the executive branch and other branches of government individually grouped together with predicate acts methods as victims, as hyper victims, but as victim predators, hyper predators, relevant to where each of our countries has this problem. And so then people with a violent family, right before I went into high school, I don't know, they must have hung around with the people, because they have people in the intelligence community involved now with the names, with the Weathersfield police, forging and switching names using wire crimes, stacking falsified police reports, a whole bunch of people involved with judges and prosecutors at the same time, timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones through time. And descriptions of they have lawyers, all sides of criminal and civil cases, people in the Britain Superior Court's hallways through time with Eric Mendez, a whole bunch of people tied to him as the people involved with the war crimes with Weathersfield police in their confessions. And the names also Bob Chase brought up the name Phil Cologne. And I never saw him inside of the campus myself from a distance, him being handed a golden watch by a female principal. She was lied to by a whole bunch of people. In other words, they protect me and other kids to fake locations and putting fake things in databases. Also, the names on Trinity College were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with various niches of organized crime bodies. And even if they're undercover police trying to be with that and training them with because there are a whole bunch of different countries, the ones in the news with them that have been planting evidence is time, fake motivations too. Not just trying to screen that legitimately. There are timed uses of this, there are methods they have with this, and they don't want anyone to tell them. Oh, we're not supposed to tell them our sources and methods. How many times we hear this if you watch CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News? No news. This is world/national news. People speaking with passions and emotions about things like crimes, criminals. As people rolls with that, there are people on off the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut, on off the corrections offices They have roles with Robert Rodriguez, people with Mike Pandolf, Mike Roberts, Ray Reynolds, who was in a kindergarten class with me. People tied to him, Ray Reynolds, increasingly with names next to that campus, which I was only at 1 year, and then that campus closed. A whole bunch of big people increasingly made interstates involved with that tied to their confessions and demonstrated roles with all sides of civil and criminal cases, victims and victims predators, and victims advocates, people with the hallways of the courts and the news, all planting at federal evidence as crimes. And, also not realizing because they're used remotely. They're planting also by putting fake motivations and uses of by other people of the real apparent motivations, like their narratives by their kids. So they go back and forth with sides of issues. The lawyers also involved with this through time. A whole bunch of lawyers tied to both sides of the cases with a Mike Pandolf, also involved with the corner of with all along Route 175 with the intelligence community and people involved with campuses. I went from with little predicate acts with facts from backgrounds with mayors and their families and people associated with them. They'll tell you we don't have conversations. They're making tricks to make us look like we can't. And then they're jumping in online and using the FBI has roles with Connecticut interbranch switching names and passion crimes on Facebook, on Trinity, on Twitter. They have more people involved with a principal recorded, proven, and involved with, he didn't confess about obscure pictures, but it was recorded other with a woman involved with them, including women judges and roles with the courts, a whole bunch of people. They've individually grouped it together. A whole bunch of people with Mark Violet and Yukon with military next to the state capitol, also involved with the O'Briens with sequence shifts, identity thefts and frauds, also with Fred Gruzet. Also, I never saw him with the neighbors. He saw me alone too, demonstrate his roles with the Clows and O'Brien's with wire crimes, with the executive branch, with the judicial branch, and with their family members, timed with overt criminal enterprises in all sides of the witness protection program. Also, with a whole bunch of names on Trinity College, involved also at New Britain locations through time. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they were influenced to roles planting, sequence shifts, fake motivation, their roles with drugs and medicines, um, tied with the kids and with adults and their narratives by that and readings of statutes, criminally foreign influence, exceptions for that, where they have the police forms. I don't know, a whole bunch of people tied to the Mazzucato family and to the ones that are married to police chief Cintron and 1 year before, 1 or more years ago before, involved with the same house and people before them at the same house. And differentially with people involved with them with communications. They're also involved with stacking predicate acts with medical community, Hartford hospital names, with wire crimes, falsified fake conversations with me. A whole bunch of people tied to a lady family. I don't even know where they live. I was involved with the principal child offender at the same time with their kids, with more pictures on of them of little kids and things on Facebook as people involved with predicate acts with the World Trade Center and who'd been involved with West Hartford locations, with New Britain courts and Hartford courts with foreign and domestic military, whatever they're doing. But these are people increasingly with each campus I went to, they have connections between kids that had nothing to do with and ones with the ones that were exceptions, with those exceptions were used criminally for any of their need to pretend other. Also, we have remote uses of the time treatments at the interbranch locations that is evidential where and how it is recorded evidence that now all sides of criminal and civil cases in Connecticut are also ones who had roles with planting post-dated documents and other natures of sequence shifting names since they were kids, with the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack. And they attached Saudis to forced roles. And obviously, we know the Saudis forced them to forced roles too. And there were a whole bunch of other countries, Afghanistan leaders and kids, a whole bunch of people from Weathersfield with the military that had been spying on me, with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and other people. They're spying on everyone though. And so this is not because President Trump says spying. When I see news predicate acts, that's got nothing. If I see fake news and I see news predicate acts, it's the same thing. I'm not quoting him. I'm quoting him with the phrase fake news. But I'm talking about news predicate acts and not against him. I'm against things I don't know about. I'm talking about the fake conversations with me that WFSB pretended, where how they're confessing, demonstrating, recording their roles with people from Korea involved with also names all along Walker Hill Road, involved with in the South Street Highway, involved with the name Phil Colo. I've never seen him there. One time I saw him on the South Street Highway. They tried to make a fake exception of me, knowing him. We had not a word of conversation. In that apartment building is also people with the military, foreign and domestic, involved with the World Trade Center attack and predicate acts every year since, including with the news media, leading up to and in various natures of cases, like a 2006 district court case with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his lawyer, Robert Chavaret, and people next to his law through time increasingly involved also with child offenders and people on off my street involved planting evidences, federal evidences, crimes, wire crimes with Weathersfield police, roles with uses of connected home break-ins through time, and with Weathersfield police roles with that with FBI and their sources. Tricks where they pretend to record things legitimately after the fact. They pretend to legitimate questions of why people react or say things don't, or because they recorded themselves when they make confessions. And then you find out they're hiding it by using self-value roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, people in the hallways, the families of everyone, including the judges and prosecutors, including their roles with their intimate relationships. Because this has everyone since you're kids. If you, in other words, correlation, we're supposed to explain how simultaneously the branches the identities, the law where you were, and demonstrably are still used criminally for an influence. To discern this, you have to say what is true always. That and how the course of slavery and Jim Crow laws were about a predicate acts with facts delivery system method, a human fact human nature breaching method, and a criminal insidiousness nature is a positive only means to cause positive value nature progressions if collusions with that identity that needs to, with overt negative causes as its identity needs to have criminal insidiousness natures of positives too, where it keeps, where it kept propagated effective without anyone realizing self-cultivated uses of criminal insidiousness natures of fake love for the use of the names like America, like countries A through Z, their own people, locations, areas, and states, all exceptions and demonstrations the same thing, and the leaders the same thing. They're victims a certain way, trying to defend it one way, but still victim predator, hyper predator, and the bottom up is not by accident, because we're not just because we have to count their criminal foreign hyper criminal foreign influences, and they came from semi-ancient times. Even if we're only, it's not by accident. There's the negative value progressions, accidents. In other words, it's not the stupid little kids. No, these are not the means. We see cars, we know that there were wagons, and this is what built the suburbs. And slavery was entrenched. Even if you don't know, slavery was entrenched in the North. It was entrenched in the North. They're hiding this from us. I mean, you could tell this. There's the extent of slavery that's still existing everywhere. We need food from other locations. These are not our means. The ground below, obviously, the Native Americans, like, how could they even, they couldn't fathom it could get worse. The worms, when the more the soil's fed and there's a positive value nature progression, we're going by its system, the worms constantly walk into the bodies of water. There were species there eating that. So the worms, the fish could eat the worms, they could eat the things they eat the worms, the crawfish, etc. The clams. The beavers can make the dams, everything's changed. They learn things, can make the home, can make freshwater quarrel. We can put this fish will go like this, they'll be able to survive to this extent, they'll be able to feed this fish. A paradise was revealed. There are proofs that the reason that asparagus is the only vegetable, one of the only vegetables that's perennial, is because they tactically did, not only did they know that they would force on everyone to need food, not just food, value nature systems from other places. They would increasingly have to leave out finite details and or value them left out or made up, and simultaneous ones. And that understood and cared about and helped out or not. And the difference also played to keep what differences is about. I'm discerning other identities of difference define uses of it. Yeah. So we can move real fast. All we have to do is admit. That's what the species by everywhere wants to be. That's what our founders want. They don't want games, excuses. In other words, research can be used criminally for, and saying, "Oh, what's your research?" can be used criminally for an influence. I don't see your research. In other words, you should hear the nature of people when you bring up things. In other words, it's not hard to look around. You can pick someone and say, "I know about someone who's being child abused." You know what I mean? Especially in cities. This is on-off campuses coordinated too. This isn't just like computers assign. They assign, programmers are assigning identities of value progressions, additional identities. In other words, and don't forget nature is that identity which is only increasing value as to what really went down before the founders were even born and through their lifetimes. It was recorded that they didn't have free speech many ways. It is recorded that there is conscious method that motivated people. Thought motivations apparent to pretend, oh, if our founders don't want freedom, why would they tell us to have freedom of speech? So we have tactically denatured human fact, human nature. And logic experts, and nature experts. If you change the words environment to nature and call it nature change, oh, it's the environment. Of course, it's the environment. So if the environment's positive, that's showing you nature's being ignored. It's forcing our value from here. Lethal IDs. Its system stays. Like that game, hot or cold. If you're trying to find something in a room or wherever you are, say you hide something out of the bush outside. You tell someone, where is this thing hitting? Am I hot? Oh, if they get closer, you go, oh, you're hot, you're getting hot. Oh, they're walking the other direction. Oh, you're getting cold. Not for the point. But the joint vaccines, it teaches things. So, in other words, there are people with Korea involved with, for example, with Mark Hampstead, Per, Mark Violet, and involved as one of the ones with the O'Brien family, also a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and a whole big bunch of people increasingly tied to whatever they did on and off campuses with their wire crimes part of that. Also with Weathersfield Police and Hartford Police, as well as Hartford Police. And I found out it's with the branches over criminal enterprises, private ones, and the exceptions tied to them. They have rules with on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state corrections offices, all along Route 3, associated all conjunctions to the state judicial branch office. Names next to it, planting fake motivations, fake ties to people, fake natures of ties to people with other countries. Increasingly, Trinity College names. A bunch of people have names I had nothing to do with at Trinity College involved with a Mr. Neville. When I was in, no, but he tried to make me not like him. Only one, and then that's all just, that's all recorded, but others being and haven't been pretended recorded. He's got his family involved with the Vermont Police Intelligence Community and Cromwell, which is also connected to Route 3, and people involved with that, with the summer school class. And with my class who made confessions tied to his roles also with medical racketeering, a whole bunch of people involved with the intelligence community, with psychiatry, with other nations, and with fire departments, with these nations involved, with these people involved at Trinity College. So make sure they get on paper and say sorry to, for example, Christine Best or Miss Best. They had to hide things I caught them doing before I went to Trinity College. As the people that have roles with, even if it was made up, they have roles with untimely death reported on Trinity College, which was also reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people with the military, intermilitary, so it's probably a high ranking person, but it's more than one person because it's other countries too at the same time, with uses of foreigners, wire crimes through time, all sides of criminal and civil cases, with people that went out of their way to pretend that to know me that I don't know at all, like a Joshua Julian on the Facebook page of the Principal Child Abusers Campus, and the intelligence community with the Facebook pages of the Britain Superior Court, and a whole bunch of ones they made after that. So then now it's a whole bunch of Facebook pages involved. But it's one with the name KNERR, and there's one with the name Kerr, who's also involved with intercities on all sides of Central Connecticut State University in New Britain. Playing with an officer Jerry Miller on Facebook and Weathersfield Police Department with Joshua Schumacher and his mother and the police chief Simtron and Dillon's and things like that, planting evidences on all sides of my house. A whole bunch of people tied to a Mike Domain I've never seen in and Adam Domain and their family and their neighbors also involved with. They try to make a at one time I was at the house real quick of a Mike Domain. That was an exception involved with sequence shifts and other nature. They have roles with the spots next to Fox Connecticut News and names next to them who have roles with predicate acts with and wrongdoing and uses, criminally foreign influence uses, tactically delusions, Ross uses of people involved with Connecticut District Court, formerly as being with New Britain Superior Court, and it's always through time and then again, as roles with child abusers proven and further recorded then and now. A whole bunch of people tied to judges of various natures of court and their family members with the same house involved with the wire crimes of the Weathersfield police further involved. People at Trinity College, the girls know my name. I'll know her name. Involved with Ray Cololo confessions and confessions tied to a Joshua Stryker involved with some with a Dean Alford switching names and an IO family and people with the name Oliveri too influenced the federal evidence as crimes with names next to Trinity College through time. Faked, faked audio video transcripts rolls and predicate acts with facts into databases behind people's backs. Fake ties to people that never had classes with each other with them, never saw them around campuses. They have the intelligence community made a fake exception after they graduated. And there's a Marcello, I never had a word, never was around Marcello. One time he walked by Reels, I don't know him. His name was said to me. Marcello was one of the ones involved with EMS with New Britain and Weathersfield campuses through time with other countries, military, foreign, domestic, with people timed roles with untimely death spots and houses around me with various natures of investigations. Investigators used criminally foreign influence to also roll with crime scenes, victims and victims advocates, and all sides of criminal and civil cases, and with the names of the courts, and with their sources, including how they have roles with uses of the families and family members and persons as mayors, and their differences, male, female, etc., and their uses of oh, well, this is an instance with this. In other words, they have military women involved with John Mayana. There was and with deans of campuses. They have people involved with a Dean Keys, also with religious spots and tactile delusions with the campus. Nothing personal. They're involved with formal director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, people all along. People involved with prisons, state corrections officers with the same house with wire crimes involved with this. They have other campuses in their cities. A whole bunch of things are come from them switching names and forging names with child offenders. It's not just that. That's why they MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News are recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They keep repeat influenced by the intelligence community, foreign and domestic, and worse, to keep bringing up transsexual things tied to people that have nothing to do with it, but they're giving them the right to lie. So they're making illusions. They employed those illusions to be used for other things against people that have nothing. In other words, that's one of the things they have a guy in the dress involved with the clothes, involved with the Weathersfield police in the corners of the streets, with the FBI and the witness protection program. They have people involved with Maine and with this Jerry Kerr on all sides of my house and my new and past neighbors and their family members, the ones with the name Domain and women tied to them all along Hangdog Lane and Two Rod Highway rules with federal evidence crimes, child abusers through time and further involved. They have the corners of the streets involved. Many criminally foreign influence uses of people's names, identity theft, fraud, slim, uses of their sense and sensibilities. Also, where they prevent people means and paper to respond and to counter properly aggressions and things like that. Identity theft, fraud, slander, threats that are credible. Recorded demonstrations of the various natures of abuses of little boys and girls, sexually distinctly, including sexually. That's another thing. They'll pretend we're talking about them on the news every day, asking what they think about people sending boys in bathrooms with the girls as transsexuals and their doctors' opinions. They have doctors with badges with those locations, and they're pretending fake motivations. In other words, there's a whole bunch of chaos on the campuses because they're attaching because of all the the fake things in place of what are the answers, and how other things, others ourselves are blamed for why and how. Those answers aren't there. That means other natures of communication, criminal insidious natures of communications are there in place for what our founders communicated for us to communicate about the value. And as the value of the Constitution on a bridge box sings, all fake branches fall to the wall slash hyper wall, which is the contemplation all want, these of ideas, not sleep stream of consciousness. That's part of how you can discern it. Learn it fast. So we just put this in place, hyperpantheism. If any country gets my country's president, any president, we're tired of standing to agree. We'll begin. In other words, but in other words, you guys will be rewarded because this is the description, just like you guys would pay for some military exercise. This is one though, with all exercise is not against the enemy because everyone's against the enemy together. So everyone could make money from it. Everyone could even monetize explaining it to the people of everywhere the species body is. Our counter strong. No, using its strength. There's only one identity that can be so strong and still be the order of the finite. Smallest, still be able to grapple with the small finite detail. So it's important too that we figure out some way as fast as possible for the birds, for example, per how negative, the ground is and how and why it wants everything to be appreciated, positive, what causes positive value nature, progressions, action natures, and how we are additionally ground. We have to address that. And this is why Native Americans can't fathom how we can't understand this. It's not that people can't understand it. Everyone's missing how it's using all locations slash s. Every name or that person's sense. Every identity. So kids can discern the kids of the branches of government in every country fake when they pretend they care against it. Sometimes it's right because they mix that so we won't be able to describe that too. They make the exception of the descriptions of everything by the science. It employed exception nature that itself, self-valued by what now to pretend to be practical leaves out what is actually practical, which is a simple list of a whole bunch of things that bad at once, but they're connected. So when people prevent the quality of fact, human nature at formal locations, at people's homes, online, and overthink different ways. So they employ psychopath, calmness, psychopath aggressions as collusions with even killers because of uses of crime scenes, because of uses of predicate acts methods, because of uses of extensive consciousness and awareness of locations, use of names, uses. In other words, they know they're putting fake things in databases. They know there are facts with predicate acts. In other words, predicate acts rules of natures. Then they're pretending to be against crimes that are hosting people, pretending to only people allowed to speak. And they're way worse crimes against them than the kids they're putting away in the cities. You can't deceive that the suburbs were designed before our founding parents were born. Slavery is north and south. We have cars now. That helps you see it too. Because when people deny the significance of that, at each age, this preaching method knew they would have to keep the blame to other things other than themselves. And it knew that descriptions of that we would have to keep whatever they have to describe, they have to keep rules with it. So some of the people are yelling at the leaders or whatever like that. The leader needs to say, need to yell back. They're not allowed to yell back right either. Because the individual voice, not just the group think. Every individual is given this by nature. Means to discern, even if everyone together is leaving out the smallest finite detail. And then they deny that. And they speak about emotions, past, especially. It shows you. And it also shows you other things. So there's this there's this nature of hyper truth. There's this nature of hyper simultaneous nature. Danger! You hear it all day. Again. Except tribes, exception to it. Trinity. So, Navajo say that we must read each other's dreams. I believe it's the Navajo. And please, I have to do more research. But 3 times, they have 3 times we have to say something regarding and with contemplation of what they were not allowed to say and what they were allowed to say. To extent we know, obviously, relative to the we know there was a predicate act delivery system method, a torture, extortion, slavery system method against everyone, simply distinctly. It consciously employed all natural differences we know. Second, it employs black and white to other than what they're about. Exception, nature. Demonstration is the same thing, except for how the what is not is in demonstration the same thing because it's in demonstration of itself. It needs us to see difference more and more, but not physical difference, not metaphysical difference, not identity difference, but all three of those together, and the extent of hyper difference we can discern. And the couplement with that of the science of it, of the prayer of it, and of the care to check if it's correct or not. Consciously make sure the smallest finite detail isn't left out. Speak for law, the value of what really came first. So in other words, we've had roles. Okay, instead. Who knows? Is there a Mark Violet? People or other people with the name Violet. And there's an Andrea. I never had anything to do with that. In other words, they tried to make a fake exception as one of the ones with the military at Elm Street at that corner years before the police chief Centron had roles with his extended family reported there. No, that's they were there already involved with people with that as one of the things that connects them as roles with predicate acts with facts, tricks with databases, fake exceptions of knowing me, lying about what came before that, what was going on then and after, with the people coaching, with the people controlling who asks questions, who are criminally foreign influenced, tactically delusions, while at the same time switching names, further roles with World Trade Center attack locations with names next to them, as the ones involved with all these Connecticut cases, criminal and civil, and the former director of the FBI and his co-defendants and their family members and their neighbors. Timed rolls with predicate acts for people on off Fox Connecticut News, on the spots next to it, on off WFSB spots next to it, WTNA spot next to it. You guys don't even care. You make up fake things with them. You guys pretend people make allegations. You're not supposed to. The court's supposed to. You have that opinion, that's fine. Get them out to name one name in sequence. You're not doing that. The news is not doing. They're attaching me. They attach me to fake conversations, fake locations. They do this with little kids too. They attach me to fake ties to a doctor when I was a kid too. Increasingly, these are people involved with this, with switching names. Even on the campus, they have a dean, Alford. I don't know, involved. I don't know what he told them. There are a whole bunch of people with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and Robert Chevery, his lawyer, and various names of federal criminals like a Thaddeus Skarbowski, Dominico Briata, and Charlie LeConch, and their family members involved with criminally foreign influence uses of teachers I had at campuses. Put it with tricks with facts, identity theft, fraud, slanders. I never had any conversation with Mr. Neville. He's putting fake things in the databases and personal. And all of them in that class, where we had me in the summer school class, you had three people in there involved with overt criminal enterprises, with middle school kids and grammar school kids, sickly distinctly connections between them. The one time I saw on campus, Joe Demoro involved with Mr. Abruzzi, a whole bunch of people involved with the intelligence community, including the military, with uses of the map of the roads and all along roads and routes, criminally foreign influence uses of identity, therefore names, all of them. And so everyone's rules, because you guys are preventing mandated law and quality of fact, human nature, and positive negative treatments that are sane at locations and interbranch. In between that, not by accident. You guys are getting away with it because they're using truth for lies. People say something when you walk by them, they pretend it's a conversation. It is, but remember, and also with this Joshua Julian, there's a whole bunch of people with the name Chandler, Daryl Chandler, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with the intelligence community, people with Rocky Hill locations, involved on the border, or Rob Rodriguez, people associated with a principal child offender, and a Mike Roberts, with people on off the state judicial branch offices through time, and off the state corrections offices, a whole bunch of people on there involved with predicate acts with campuses and with names next to it, and with forensics locations through time, has something to do with their roles with on the border there, and roles with people at Hartford Hospital with their patients and criminals and police forms involved with, untimely deaths. And then again, through time, has people roles also with criminal and civil cases with victims and victims advocates. They have roles together with federal evidence as crimes and with tactical delusions, and that differentially relative also has time roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones originally still is actually manifest with locations and is actually relevant and relativity. Science is real. The other minds, vaccines to feel, fake branches fall. So I love you neighbors and everybody. I had to yell one time because there's a dog family, people were with the FBI and Weathersfield Police and State Police, foreign and domestic, being for Drake, Turk, persuaded, whatever. But also they've been roles with federal crimes with overt criminal enterprise, child offenders, planting evidences, including fake motives and fake things for people with predicate acts, with facts, tricks that are timed with other countries and their own against their own there. So we're going to overcome this by putting hyperpantheism, and the hyper part comes with how we're going to check things, vaccines. And fake benches fall, they receive Species body belongs to shadow box, all please. Okay, thank you. Okay.